Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to learn about another important concepts of CSS, that is block level elements, inline elements, and inline block elements. Understanding these three types of boxes is extremely important because they determine how elements behave on our web page, especially when it comes to width, height, margins, padding, and positioning. And let's take a closer look. The block level elements, let's start with the elements that we have already been working with. If we look at our page, we have elements like paragraphs, headings like H2, H3, and the header, article. Most of these elements are block level elements, and we can see why they are called block level elements by looking at how they behave. A block level element basically takes up all the available horizontal space inside this parent. Even if the content itself doesn't need that much space, the element still stretches across the entire available width. For example, this heading, what is HTML? As you can see, so when I click this and I go to inspect, so as you can see, it takes all the available space from left to right, and because of that, another block level element cannot simply sit next to it. Instead, block level elements are normally stacked vertically, so we can think of them as a large block of content, one underneath another. Now there's something very important about the block level elements. The box model applies normally to them. That means we can use CSS of width, height, margin, padding, border, and all of these properties work as we would expect. And coming to the inline elements, now let's look at some other elements on our page, something called, if we go to this Lara Jones, so I can simply go ahead and inspect. As you can see, the elements behave very differently. They only occupy the amount of space that's their content actually needed. As you can see here, the Lara Jones only occupies the space that actually it needs. The strong element does not stretch across the entire line. It only takes up to the space required by the word Lara Jones. So these are called inline elements because they can stay inside the line of the text. So inline elements does not create line breaks. Another important characteristics of inline elements that they don't create line breaks and they can be stacked horizontally one beside another. For example, if you look at this in here, you can see these are all inline elements. So for the inline elements, the box model does not work exactly the same way. But for example, if I create something like, we go to this navigation and if I take A, the links, and if I give width of 100 pixels and height of 100 pixels, and the link will not suddenly become a 500 by 100 pixel box. That's because it is still an inline element. So for inline elements, horizontal margins and padding works normally. So if I take this and I give margin left of 20 pixels and a margin right of 20 pixels and I save this, you can see the spaces between them. This will create an horizontal space, but vertical margins does not behave in the same way. So if I give margin top 20 pixels and margin bottom of 20 pixels, you can notice there is no change, but when I click this for the inspect, you can see it shows 20 and the margin of 20, but it won't create any space vertically. And this is something you really need to remember. One of the first things you should check is whether the element is an inline element. So now CSS gives us a very easy way to change its behavior, and that is by using the display property. So we can change this by using display to block. And also for the reference, I'm changing the background color to something red. So now we are telling the browser render this anchor as an block level element, and as a result the links will now occupy the available width, create a line break, accept the width, height, accept vertical margins and padding normally. Take this. Now it is more visible, and now we will change the block element into an inline element. And it back to normal. Now for the list of items here, these are block level elements, so I'm changing them as inline elements. So for that I'm going for the list, and here I'm giving display as inline. So when I save this, you can see that the opening tag, the closing tag, the actual element came side by side, becoming them as an inline elements. So instead of coming one after another, it came side by side. Now there is actually a third type of box that combines some of the best features of both, and that is called inline block element. We can create one using by keeping the display in as inline block. I'm just commenting this. So well, an inline block element behaves like an inline element on the outside but behaves like an block level element on the inside. So this is very extremely useful. So I'm just creating here display inline block. Now if I refresh this, and now I'm just removing the comment and commenting only this, right? I'm just commenting only this and this. If I refresh the page, now they only occupy the space that their content require, and they don't automatically create a new line. Inline block from the inside. Now we can also use the box model normally, as I can change this. If I give the right one as 30 pixels, you can notice the change also. If I go to inspect, as you can see, we created the right side of 30 and the remaining all 20. And now the vertical margin also works, the padding works, everything works. And for this, actually, we can create another one like now link, and also create another pseudo class that is last child. For this, we don't need margin right, and I'm keeping this as 0. So if I refresh this, as you can see, the right is 0 and remaining as normal. So I can also use I'm just removing the left and the bottom. I'm giving padding of 10 pixels. You can now see the padding also, margins also. And that's it for the block inline and inline block elements. These concepts are fundamental to understanding how CSS layout works, and you will see them come up again and again as we continue building real world websites.